If you take a look at London, you have a mayor named Khan. He's a horrible mayor. He's an incompetent mayor, but he's a horrible, vicious, disgusting mayor. They're allowing people just to come in and unchecked, unvetted.
Let me tell you, Aki, I was in Stockholm at the weekend and I had a meal at a restaurant in a hotel called the King Franz Hotel. And the waiter there, who was, I don't know, probably late 20s, early 30s, he was telling us about his trip to London in November. And he said it is the best city in the world that he's ever been to. And he went into great detail about why he thought that. And I listened to what he says. And then I listened to what Donald Trump says. And it's as if they're talking about two different cities. I don't know about you. I don't feel unsafe when I'm walking the streets of London. And I was in the East End of London today, going to Mile End Hospital, and I mean that is not the most salubrious part of the capital. I didn't feel unsafe walking the streets of Mile End. Yes, we have crime in London, just as any big city does, but is it really any worse than New York or Detroit or Chicago? My message to Donald Trump is look after your own backyard before you start insulting ours, because London has its problems, but it is not this city racked with crime that you and your colleagues, J.D. Vance being another one of them, try to make out. And I, for one, am sick of it. Rad in Hammersmith. Hello, Rad.
Hello, Ian. First of all, thank you. I love this show.
Thank you.
Nice to get an opportunity to put a view that I actually think Trump is correct in many ways. Khan is not a popular man, and he just says it in a more gritty way than possibly an English person would.
Well, let's remember, Sadiq Khan has been re-elected twice. I think he is an unpopular mayor among many people. He's certainly not a mayor that, well, I don't have a vote in London, but if I had a vote in London, I wouldn't have voted for him. But that doesn't mean to say that you should indulge in this kind of language that Trump is indulging in. Now, we know that Trump says extreme things, but it's so uncalled for. I mean, if you think about it, he welcomed the new New York mayor to the White House a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Mamdani. Now, he scored a fantastic victory, but he stands opposed to everything that Donald Trump stands for. And you would think, well, if he's going to be so horrible about Sadiq Khan, why isn't he being horrible about Mamdani?
Ian, Sadiq has been a pretty nasty person to the President of the United States. He skipped the official banquet on the visit in 2018. He gave permission to fly the balloon buffooning the President of America when we were trying to build trade links. How offensive is that? He also went over to Stanford University in California in 2016 and absolutely insulted Trump and said that a lot of the abuse that he was now receiving was down to Trump. He's called him an Islamophobist, a racist.
Well, you can understand why he calls him Islamophobic, can't you? Have you seen his comments on Sudanese people?
Well, there you go. If you want to dish it out, somebody like Trump is going to dish it back. And I quite like that. I think they dislike each other immensely. And Starmer somehow has sort of, just in spite of all this, managed to cuddle up to Trump and pay homage to him. And it's quite revolting to see, if I'm honest. But why should Khan be able to make all these accusations and Trump not return in kind?
Because he's President of the United States. Can you think of another President of the United States in recent memory or even in longer memory? You'd probably have to go back to Andrew Jackson to find one that would have responded like this.
No, but he's voted. He's president. It's democracy. And I think the reason he's been voted in is because he's willing to make a call on. And I personally, on the comment of how London's changed and the safety of it, let's just bring up knife crime. Which is
on the decline.
Come on.
Well, look at the figures.
If you look back to before Khan took over, you will see it is not the same city. But even further back than that, I have seen the decline of my city, and I've grown up in it. I'm 60.
Well,
I have seen it decline, and there are areas where there is block voting on lines of sectarianism, and I think Trump's vaguely calling that out, and it's a reality.
Well, he can mind his own business. It's not his business. If what you say is true, then fine. British politicians can call that out, and I'm certainly not going to defend that kind of thing. But I don't live in London. I last lived in London in the late 1990s, but I come to London every day. I work in London 4 days a week, and I don't recognise this city that Donald Trump describes.
I do, and I've lived there all my life, and I've seen it go down the pan bit by bit. I think he's got quite a lot of people who share that same opinion. I mean, I work a lot in Essex. If you go out to Essex, I meet a lot of people there that also grew up in London, and they won't go back into parts of it. So,
but which parts of it? I can't think of a single part of London that I've been to in the last 5 years that I felt unsafe in.
Well, it's not my experience at all.
Well, name the parts of London that you wouldn't feel safe in.
East London, a lot of East London, a lot of South London. Just look at the knife crime statistics. I've got nephews that have had knives put to their throat for their phones coming out of school. Is that acceptable?
Of course it's not acceptable. And I don't deny that there is crime in London, but there is crime in every big city. There is crime in every big American city. Would you feel safer in New York than London? I doubt it.
I don't know, but I don't really care. But the point is, Khan is welcome to go over to California and lay the law down to Trump. But you're saying that Trump, who has been a guest here in London, and he bigs it up saying what a wonderful place, and it is going down the pan. I think the whole country is going down the pan at the moment, and the values are different. That's my opinion. I agree with Trump. I'm a very proud English person, but in what he said, you pick any point and I'll give you an argument over why he may have some truth in that. And you're saying, shut up, you're American. It doesn't matter that you're the president, and you're entitled to have that opinion. But personally, I think he's putting his neck on the line a bit there, and he's pointing out what a lot of other politicians are saying here in the UK as well.
Well, I don't think there are many mainstream politicians that are saying those things. There are politicians who just wish to stir up a fervour and try and make people like you feel unsafe and pretend that London is this crime-ridden city that is the worst in the world, when most people who live here do not subscribe to that point of view.
London is not the worst. We know that. Sorry. We know places like, in South Africa or Colombia.
And the United States of America.
Very true. But London is not...
Maybe he should turn his attention to gun crime in America rather than talk about knife crime in London, because I'll tell you what, you're more likely to be killed by a gun than you are by a knife. Rad?
I think you get killed by knives here.
Yes, of course you do.
And the drug crime level going up and all the rest of it. I personally think Khan has... He avoids all the questions about it. I don't understand why people would vote for him, and then all the lies about ULEZ and everything. Sorry, I am giving a fairly strong opinion there, but
and that's fine.
You're entitled to have an opinion.
You're entitled to it.
Like him.
But Donald Trump, as a president of the United States, he can have his own opinion. But if he's got an opinion, then he should express it in a diplomatic way and not try to insult not just London but the whole of the United Kingdom. Let's remember, he's half British himself. His mother was Scottish. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy this language that London is this sort of hellhole that people should be afraid of coming to, because that's the message he's sending out to Americans. And we rely on American tourists in this city for a lot of income. And he should also ask, why are so many Americans flocking to London to live? It's because they don't want to live under Donald Trump. That's why.